everyone. I hope you've all had a
Hi,
good day or having a good day, depending where you are. Welcome to A Cosmic Cuppa with Jude. Cuppas at the ready, mugs, glasses, whatever. I'd love to this evening introduce you to a very dear friend of mine, Wendy Mercer. So how are you going, Wendy? How's your day been?
I'm well, thanks, Jude. Yeah, good, thank you. And yourself?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm really excited about this evening's podcast. I think it's going to be fun and illuminating and deep diving all at once.
Yep,
So
that'll be fun.
I would love to read out your bio if I may.
Yeah, go for it. Sounds good.
So Wendy has called herself Wendy Charlotte. It's a beautiful name. So Wendy is an intuitive, tarot consultant, flower essence practitioner, workshop facilitator, sacred ceremony facilitator, and music teacher. Wendy's background is in working professionally as a vocalist and teacher of singing and piano to adults and children. Alongside this, she has professional training in life coaching and motivational interviewing counselling, amongst other therapies. Wendy has an extensive background in group facilitation and program design within the educational and mental health sectors, including running her workshop, Sounds Mindful, voice and singing therapy to clients in recovery at the Salvation Army Rehabilitation Centre for over 7 years. For over 18 years, Wendy has designed a variety of group programs, including sound and music therapy, mindfulness, breathwork, self and body image, personal development, creativity and colour therapy, spirituality, and women's self-empowerment groups. In addition to this, Wendy has many years training in the art of Egyptian Bellydance, performed on stage as a dancer, and taught classes at the School of Contemporary Bellydance. She currently teaches singing and piano and performs professionally as a musician. In addition to this, she is passionate about supporting people in the area of well-being and personal development through the art of tarot, archetypal readings, spiritual guidance, and vibrational healing, using the powerful First Light flower essences of New Zealand. Wendy offers personal one-to-one consultations, as well as group workshops. She loves practicing and facilitating the beautiful sacred art of ceremonial magic within groups to inspire intentional, conscious, and creative living. Her education and training has been with Bachelor of Music in Jazz, Postgraduate Certificate in Health Science, MI Counselling, Diploma of Life Coaching, Secondary Teacher Training, Certificate in the First Light Flower Essences of New Zealand, New Zealand Medicine Woman 8th Ray Ritual Magic Training, Advanced Certificate in Aura-Soma Colour Therapy, Voice Dialogue Facilitator, Professional Training, and Gestalt Psychotherapy, Professional Development Workshops. Well, that was a bit of a mouthful for me. I don't think I stumbled over many words. What a bio! What a bio!
Oh, thank you.
How amazing. That's just wonderful. Wendy, could we start, please, as I often do with my guests, asking to have just a small look at your childhood. What was life like for you growing up? And when did you realise there's more to life than this 3D reality?
Yeah, okay. thinking, well, it's a big question, right, really. So without getting into too much of the detail of my childhood per se, it was a traumatic childhood for me. Home was traumatic and school was. So there was never really a place where I felt like I belonged or I felt safe. That was part of my journey. That's okay. The second part to your question is interesting because probably some of my earliest memories, and they're very vague, is floating out of my body and up in my bedroom and just seeing lots of colours, but I can't remember anything beyond that. And I used to often see things as well, and my mother would say that I'd talk about the birds coming into the room, and the birds would scare me, and so she'd have to let the birds out, and just various people and that sort of thing. So I think that was just earlier on. As I got older, there was probably less of that happening though, because I think I shut down. So yeah.
That's really interesting. So do you think you were having visitation at night when you had birds coming in? That's a very interesting scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think just given the environment that I was living in, and and my parents did their best, but of course they hadn't dealt with their own stuff. And so there's a lot of negativity, a lot of drama, that it was probably attracting a lot of energies and things that I was able to pick up. So a lot of those experiences weren't very nice for me either. Because I was open to them. So energy would, present itself as different things to me.
Yes, of course. And
Yeah,
often we
yeah,
can have the shadow
yeah,
presenting, or not as they really are, presenting to you in a way that they feel may be acceptable to you. There's all sorts of scenarios on presentation, aren't there?
that too. And I think there was a lot of other things as well. And the thing is too, is my mother was actually a very good clairvoyant. And back in the 70s, she was part of the spiritualist church. And so she would be a medium in the spiritualist church. And as a kid, she'd drag me into, and I didn't mind going. And sometimes I'd be a part of their healings and things, just go and play. So from an early age, I was open to that sort of thing. But I think also just her openness, perhaps, and, bless her, not actually dealing with her stuff, but having these gifts actually meant that there was things that were sort of possibly coming in. Yeah,
Yes.
and there was a few experiences that I had around that I can remember that were really interesting,
Yes. Are you able to expand a little bit on your out-of-body experience you had? That's quite fascinating. Do you remember how old you would have been when that happened?
I think I was probably 2 or 3, yeah. And I'm sure there was many, but that one in particular, I don't remember much apart from the fact that I remember flying out of my body and there was colours everywhere.
Beautiful.
And that's all I can actually remember.
That's beautiful. How wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Can you please speak about your musical practice as a vocalist, teacher of singing and piano?
Sure, okay. Right, where do I start here? So I teach kids and adults. And I started playing piano when I was 10. I was always musical. My father always had awesome records, in the 70s, just everything from Earth, Wind and Fire to America to Fleetwood Mac, to the disco, and I loved it. And it was sort of a saving grace for me, really, because I'd be able to put those on and just, if no one was around, just dance and sing. So I kind of got this musical education in an era where music was still good, that was being produced. So I was really lucky with that. But my parents weren't musicians at that time, although my mother was a pianist when she was younger. She learned classical piano. So there wasn't like there was any instruments in the house or anything like that. It was just that there was, the music was available and always played. And so, yeah, I guess, yeah, it wasn't till I was 10, I think my mother bought a piano and sent me to piano lessons. And I did that for a little while. And after my mother left my father, which was a pretty tough time, I went for a little while longer and then she couldn't afford to keep sending me. So I stopped. And then there was a short time after that, she'd got involved with the country music club, and I was sort of going along to that, and I started singing, and then I won some singing lessons. So I started doing some singing lessons. Although I wasn't really playing the piano, it was still there, and so that sort of started me on the journey of vocals. And I suppose by the time I was about 17, 18, I started, I was in a rock band, and we did rock and metal, and then a bit through my 20s, and then got into jazz because I had a boyfriend who was a sax player. So I got into a bit of jazz, and it wasn't till, I just sort of mucked around with things really. I'd do some gigs and they were paid, and but never had a lot of self-belief. So there was a lot of times when I really sabotaged opportunities that I look back on, and it doesn't matter now, but I think had I had better self-worth and confidence, that I would have taken those. So it's interesting, often the timelines that we end up choosing to experience. When they were real forks in the road, I felt they could have gone different ways. So it's been interesting, yeah.
And I think you're right. There are lots of forks in the road in life, aren't there? And lots of choices. I can kind of see you as a rock chick doing very well, and then maturing into the jazz scene.
I didn't really have a rock chick voice, actually. So I did very well at it. But, I like all musical styles, and I think it doesn't matter what genre it is. If it's good music, it's good music.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I still love it, and I love performing, although I don't do as much these days. But it was really in 97, I went to the Conservatorium of Music in Wellington just to do foundation piano, and that was after I'd left a business with my mother that I had in secondhand clothing in Wellington, and needed to get out of that because my mother and I didn't have a very good relationship. So I went off and did that, and they didn't have a singing course at the time, and I just really wanted to sing. So I looked at moving down here to do the Christchurch Jazz School in 98, and ended up moving down here. But lo and behold, it was a year after I moved down here that the Wellington school got a singing course, and I was like, damn, because they were a really good school, But anyway, so that brought me down here and took me on a very different path. So ended up doing about a year and a half there, and got pregnant with my son. He's now 24. And and then went back after he was born, and then just it was too hard with having a baby and being in a kind of a relationship that was emotionally abusive, and so I left. And it wasn't until 2012 that I thought, right, I'm going to go back and finish this, because it was like, moving down here was the reason why I'd come down. It was something I just needed to complete for myself. It was really about my self-worth and trying to validate myself, I suppose, as a musician. Did it do that? A little bit. It did a little bit, to say, well, I've got a degree in music now. But yeah, it's a very hard industry, and I've had a lot of rejection within that industry. So you've got to have a thick skin, and it's really only now at the age I'm at now that I've developed that thick skin where I, quite honestly don't give a shit. I just do what I do. It's not dependent on other people. So, it's interesting because we can do these things in life, but it's often not about the thing that we're doing, but it's really about, I guess, the life lessons along the way. And for myself, like I think for a lot of people, it was really about that self-belief and self-worth, and feeling like you're worthy of taking up the space that you do, and that you have something to offer, and that just because someone doesn't like it doesn't mean you're any less, right? Yeah. And I think that's in particular for people that have had a lot of criticism in their life, and we all have to one extent or the other. Especially if there's been a very focus on perfectionistic sort of qualities within the family and family dynamics, whether they're aware of that or not. So yeah, so that's kind of the nutshell.
That is such an interesting and in-depth answer. Thank you for opening up in that way. And I think we can all relate to feelings of not having self-worth enough. And as we all know, the learning journey, if we choose to accept it, is to crack that nut open wide, to expose our real being to the vulnerability, which is the strength, which then allows us to grow. You've got to have the soil nurtured for the seed to grow.
Yeah,
And we've got to allow to let the barriers down to get there. And it's one of the hardest things in life I think we can ever do. The bravest journey is the hero's journey. It's the inner journey. It's the journey of life, the journey of soul. And you've done it. And I'm so proud of you because it's hard. And in the industry that you've been in, which you've said is very hard to crack that nut open, you know. But look where it's brought you with your self-worth. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah. I think, you know, I mean, you could say that about any industry.
Yes,
just the
of
nature of
course.
the world that we live in, it's competitive.
Yep.
And perhaps it's easier for those people who, you know, have walked an easier path and have a deeper sense of self-confidence. But if that's not there, then it's very hard. And doesn't matter how much talent you have or how much work you do, if that's not there, then you actually attract the opposite to the experience you want, right? And that was my journey. So one of the things that really inspires me in the children and the adults that I work with is, you know, coming from a really holistic and spiritual perspective too, and is to really help them with their confidence and self-worth, especially when it comes to using your voice, right? But it's interesting, I teach more piano than singing these days, but so they have a good experience, good musical experience, but gain a sort of sense of self-efficacy as well. Yeah, and you know, everyone learns differently, so you have to be really adaptable and really, really sensitive and empathetic.
And that's the teaching of today, Wendy, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
learning to read your clients, how they learn, how best they can learn and get the most out of them, which is giving them a fun but a learning experience. And I think that's the best way to teach anyone, you know, to have that rapport in a way that gives them self-confidence in themselves to perform in a way that they're feeling good about what they're doing. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
This is the new way of teaching.
Yeah, I think it's about giving yourself permission to not be perfect and get it wrong, to make mistakes. And it was interesting actually, and I'll just share, I'm going to take my glasses off. I go backwards and forwards a bit. I did a gig on Saturday and it was a private one. I don't do that many now because of the health and other reasons. And a young woman came up to me, I think she was about 19 or so, and her mother, and they loved it, you know. And I was chatting to them and she'd sort of shared that she'd had a rough experience at high school because they sort of kicked her out of the music, whatever it was that she was doing musically in the music department, but it happened to be at one of Christchurch's most elite music departments, you know, schools with elite music departments. And you could see it had really knocked her, and she sang and played an instrument as well. And so I sort of chatted to her, you know, about that and about confidence and about letting go of needing affirmation from other people and to get it right and that sort of thing. But it was interesting because halfway through we said to her, would you like to get up and do a song, you know? And I'm like, no. And then we thought, well, ask again, you know, and the mother said, no, she won't. And so we did. And she did this time. And she got up and she ended up doing 3 songs. And it was great. Everyone loved it, you know. And I said to her, just allow yourself, just have fun, because no one remembers the bum notes or the bits that you think are crap. People will relate to the energy that you're giving out. They want you to feel good, you know. So she came out off that. You could see her energy was just really expanded. And so those moments are really cool, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're the best. That's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's nice because I feel filled up from that, you know. I
Yes,
go away
you get
feeling
you
like,
gain.
more than just sort of going and doing a job and getting paid, even though the people are great, they love it. Just on a deeper level.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Wendy.
Yeah.
We know that the voice is an amazing instrument, and we are aware that sound has an incredible effect on our physiology, on all levels, actually. Sound uses different parts of our brain and activates within us altered states of being at times. Can you speak about the power of the voice and sound, please?
Yeah, gosh, it's a big subject too. Depends on your intention too. But, you know, I suppose being the throat chakra is often we suppress what it is we really want to say, or if we suppress our creativity, or we've got any issues sort of within that sacral chakra, we're not going to be expressing ourselves in the way we can freely, you know, probably as we did as children, because as children we would make lots of noise and we were quite free, you know, but as we get older we learn to take on the conditioning of society and shut that down. So, you know, whether people just come for singing lessons or like to sing, everyone says about how empowering and freeing that is, yeah? You can take it steps further too in terms of using the voice as a way to heal. So really expressing things within yourself that you've perhaps suppressed, yeah? That takes a bit of time because you've got to unpack the layers before you get there, you know. And of course we can use sound through any instrument, or whether it's through bowls, you know, crystal bowls, or anything that makes a sound for healing. And I think especially the voice is really powerful, right? Yeah, because then it's coming from us. We're the instrument. We're making the sound. And people go, I can't sing, you know, I can't do that. I go, well, actually, this is the interesting thing, is that we all can. If you can speak, then you can actually sing, or you can learn to make a sound. So I'll give you an example. Salvation Army, where I was teaching groups in Sounds Mindful, which was a workshop that I developed that used breathwork, mindfulness, and sort of meditation techniques, and toning. So where we actually getting people to sing a tone, but giving themselves permission to sound like crap, you know, but doing it in a group situation. So, and of course, where I was doing this was in the alcohol and drug rehabilitation, and there people that stay there, you know, for sort of 6 weeks and do their program. And so a lot of them are really resistant, you know, but they're there to do the work on themselves, you know, so they have to actually show up. They have to be in the workshop, you know. So I sit down and they have no idea at that point what they're going to do. And I say, well, actually, you're going to be using your voices. And there's sort of this uncomfortable silence, you know. And I think, well, what? I hope I'm not going to sing. It's like, well, yeah, we might be singing, probably will be. But hey, look, I say to them, this is an invitation to have a go and experience something in a different way. Think back when you were a kid and you'd yell and scream and you'd make noises. You loved doing that. So we're going to do something similar in this session. I said, but it's an invitation, so no one's going to make you. This is my group. I'm not going to make you do anything. We're all adults here, right? So this is a free will thing. So if it's, because for a lot of people that, you know, using their voice or singing can trigger trauma. It's like there's this, ooh. So I just say to people, just listen. That's okay. And be present with what's coming up for you. Just sit with that and just observe that. It's okay. That's great. That's all you have to do. If that's enough, then that's enough, you know, but you might surprise yourself. And there's no judgment, right? So we usually start off by doing sort of breath work, just to really get people, you know, into their body. We talk a little bit about music therapy and sound, and the healing benefits of using sound, especially when you sing it with intention, because sound's vibration and thoughts are vibration, right? So we can embed the sound we make with the thought and the intention. And that's a bit, you know, pushing the walls out a bit for some people. Anyway, so yeah, we do a bit of breath work, and then I'll sing a tone, right? And I'll just sing that and they listen. And then I say, right, you're going to have a go now. And they're like, oh, you know, and I say, look, just join in, and it's okay. It's okay to even for it to sound bad. And they do, and they usually start giggling and, all the rest of it. And so I make them do it with their eyes shut. So they're not looking, because I said the ego gets in the way and we're looking at the next person feeling like we look really stupid. And they have a go, and it's quite incredible, especially with some groups. Some are, you get this more resonant sound than others. It just depends where everyone's at. And where I'm at. And so we do that a few times, and it's interesting how the energy starts changing. And so by the end of the sort of doing that, and we've done the breath work and a bit of meditation, and I get them making different sounds, and we stand up and I get them to bring their body into it and that sort of thing, is I teach them a simple song. And then we break them into two parts and we get them singing two parts. And the end of it, some people have had no experience in doing anything like this apart from maybe when they were children at school. Occasionally you get someone who's a musician and they're there and they love it. But what always amazes me is just how different the energy is afterwards, and how they're just all up and it's just vibrant. Yeah. So I've really had, sorry.
No, go for it.
I've only really had a couple people, like usually you get a couple in the group and they're like, oh, this is just weird, I say, hey, cool. Weird's cool, let weird be, I said, that's cool, you can just listen. Really, there's only been a couple that didn't like it. Not here to do that, I'm here for, and that's fine. That doesn't bother me at all. And one person I had to ask to leave. So it would have been really difficult. But you're going to get that in that sort of environment, so. But it's interesting using that with a group of people that, it's different if we're sitting here, say, with you guys or with people that are used to sort of going into spiritual things and trying different things, and they're a bit older and, but a lot of these people have just had many, many years of addiction. Some of them have run businesses and they've done other things, but it can be a bit woo-woo for them, so I've got to kind of be careful how I navigate things as well.
I think you've
push the walls out a little bit and open up to new things. And
I think you've done a brilliant job with that, because I know you designed a lot of those programs yourself. One of the things I find interesting is, in a way, we are our voice. When we listen to people, we can hear whether someone's strong or someone's really not that good, because the voice is very weak. Or you get an adult speaking with a childlike voice, very high and squeaky, because they don't feel like they can grow up and be safe. I think we can learn a lot about the projection of the voice, but also, and you would know more than I certainly do, on how to project your voice, how to release the voice, as you've been doing in groups and probably with your training as well. Using the movement and sounds and tones we make from within our body to bringing it out with intent, we need to use the breath. Now, it's interesting, Wendy, when someone starts talking, they're often answering the question I'm about to ask. This happens so much. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. We need to use the breath. Would you speak about the importance of breath work? And are you able to take us on a little journey using breath work? Is that appropriate?
Yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, as I think we all know here, I'm assuming that our breath is our connection to the physical realm and to life itself. And breath is rhythm. Everything in life is about rhythm, ebbs and flows. The breath ebbs and flows. So, yeah, where was I going to go with that? Breath is interesting because it's only just now in mainstream psychology that they recognize the importance of breath work, because it brings us into our body and into the present moment, right? So, and if you watch people that get a fright, or children, they'll go like this, or when we start focusing on our own breathing and what that's doing, then we start realizing probably how shallow we breathe, how tight we might be. And so that was one of the great things in the course, is that people would go, oh gosh, I didn't realize my breathing was so bad. And I said, I bet you don't feel as tired afterwards, yeah. So, yeah. So let's actually have a go, and I'll see what else comes up, because I was going to say something else, but that's right. So what I want to do with you, because some of you have probably done breath work already, and I just do what I do and what I feel and what I know. So I'll just ask you to sit up straight in your chair, so you kind of, your back's, you're lifting your rib cage, actually. That's really important, because a lot of us slouch and we sit just like this. So we want to lift the rib cage and have our feet flat on the floor. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to take you through this, what we call the 7-1 breath, which is an old Buddhist technique. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to put your hands, rub your hands together, and just put them just on your belly where your tummy button is, just below there, so you can just feel that belly. And I want you to take a really deep breath through your nose into the bottom of your belly. And then just hold it for a minute, but see if you can get that breath down into your belly. And then when you're ready, just through the mouth, just release that. Yeah. And do that 2 more times. And every time, just notice what's happening. If you can't breathe through your nose, just through your mouth is fine. So into your belly and just releasing that breath. Now, it's really important that we don't just breathe on the upper rib cage, because often what happens is people go like that. You don't want that. If you do that, you're going to keep doing that. You're probably going to pass out. So we don't want that, eh? All right. So again, just breathing into your belly, through your nose or your mouth, holding that breath and releasing. Slowly, good. What I'm going to take you through now is I'm going to ask you in a moment to shut your eyes. So we'll kind of turn this into a little bit of a meditation. And yeah, all right. So just asking you to close your eyes. Okay. Just breathe normally, but just scanning from your head down to your feet, just noticing what's happening in your body. There might be a pain or an itch or something. It's fine. Just allow it to be. Just noticing any thoughts, but don't attach to them. They're just clouds, allowing them to pass by. Just noticing anything that's happening, sounds outside, just allowing those to be. Without judgment, just being in the here and now, feeling your body and noticing your breath. Reminding yourself to take a deep breath into your belly, to hold that breath and release that breath. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to count to 7 and then hold for 1 and then count to 7 again. And as I do, you're going to breathe in for 7 counts, hold for 1, breathe out for 7 counts and hold for 1. And we'll do that a few times. Keeping your hands on your belly just to remind yourself to get that breath right down into those lower chakras and into your body. Okay, so when you're ready, just breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathing in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Holding and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And breathing in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just coming back just to your normal breathing pattern. Getting that life force as you breathe in. I'm going to just take you through a second part now. So as you're breathing deeply in, I want you to imagine a beautiful ball of light above your head. This ball of light connects straight to the divine source, the ultimate, supreme source of all universes, dimensions, and creations, and your higher self. Now this beautiful light now is going to move down, create a channel down through the top of your head. And as you're breathing, you're going to imagine this light coming down through your head, through your neck, down your spine, down your legs and your feet, all the way into the center of the earth, anchoring into the crystalline matrix of the earth. Feeling that flow from this ball of light and divine source down, down, down through yourself as a channel, down into the earth, into the crystalline matrix. Breathing that in. And now you're going to imagine the earth answering that call and sending a responsive ray of light back up through the channels of your body, up through your spine, and the top of your head, right into that ball of light. So now you've created a circuit. It's as above, so below. Feeling that circuit as you breathe in and breathe out. Now that light is expanding and expanding. It's getting bigger and bigger, spreading out and out beyond your house, where you live, through the country and the earth, into the universe, instantaneously, with that connection to everything. Just breathing that in. Okay, so when you're ready, now I would like you to just bring your consciousness back to your body and the breath. Just breathing in, noticing what's happening in your body, any distractions or thoughts, and allowing them to be. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to count down from 7 to 1. When I reach 1, you'll be ready to open your eyes again. 7, 6, 5, feeling the breath in your body. 4, feeling connected to the earth and the cosmos. 3, feeling centered and present. 2, 1, taking a deep breath into your abdomen and releasing that. I always hate this part of breaking the silence, but I wanted to just talk about, if we're talking about sound, we really need to talk about silence and space. Because in fact, we're so used to having so much sound and noise and inner chatter go on that we become so identified with that we've lost that conscious connection to the very thing that holds those sounds, or holds everything that manifests in consciousness, because nothing, as we know, would exist without that space. sound exists within the space. So it's that space that's really important. And so this is why the breath is important, because at the top of the breath and the bottom of the breath is the space. Before the sound and after the sound, it's the space. In fact, the space is around everything. Yeah.
Bless you. That was so beautiful. And it reminds me of those words in many sacred traditions. In the beginning was the void.
Yeah, totally.
So that was before sound, before light, before anything was the void, the all-encompassing impregnation possibility of life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Full of possibility. It was the void, the darkness, the blackness.
Yeah, of all contains all possibility, and that's
Yes.
form. Yeah.
Yes. And so we have that too. You're quite right, because we're filling up the gaps,
Yeah.
so to speak, aren't we?
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. So when we start understanding, sound from an esoteric perspective, brings so much more meaning. And the cultures that understand this, because we're disconnected within Western music traditions, at least in the modern ones, but the Indian culture, and also the Arab, and I've listened to a lot of and danced to a lot of Arabic music in my life, being a dancer in the past. They use a musical system that uses what we call microtones. So in Western music, we have a chromatic scale, but we don't have the notes between the notes, right? If you think about a piano, unless you play the guitar, you can bend the strings and get those microtones, right? But in the Indian and the Arabic systems of music, they use all the in-between notes. And when they sing, they use them. Yeah. But you think of sort of instruments like the piano and those sort of instruments you can't play those microtonal notes. And we don't have scales for them, but those other cultures do, because they understood that all of those notes and those microtones were aspects of consciousness.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. Really interesting. Yeah.
Yes. And it's like with the Indian music with the Shruti box.
Yeah, totally.
That played a lot of those tones, in my understanding. And often there was one sound that all the other sounds of the song were being played on. So it was the same bass note.
Yeah, that was the drone.
Thank you.
The drone. Yeah.
I'm speaking in layman's terms,
Right.
obviously.
I understood what you meant. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love the Arabian music. Absolutely love it. Like yourself, it really moves me. I adore it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
And I'm sure there's other cultures as well. I just can't comment on those and these systems of music. But with the Western system of music, as beautiful as it is, it's very limited. And of course, I'm fairly biased in a sense, but I can sort of speak from some education, is that sadly what's happening with the current pop music is it's been infiltrated and it's a psyop now. It's a certain vibration and messaging, and it's very formulaic, and there's nothing beautiful about it, so yeah, it's very sad, and it's used to keep that slavery,
Yes.
So, and that's what most of our children are getting to listen to. Yeah, unless of course they've got parents that are exposing them to other types of music and wanting to explore other types of music, but it's the rubbish that's on the being pushed by the industry, radio, totally. and the sexualization,
And when you think we've been taken from 442 to 440 hertz as the chromatic, I might not be saying that right, but as the hertz that music is played from, has taken out a lot of the richness of the sounds when they were all tuned to 432 hertz.
That's an interesting one, because that was the Verdi, which was that 416. So it's changed a few times, the tuning has. And different countries had different tunings, right? So it means that A is tuned to a certain frequency of hertz. So of course they say the 440 because it's a theory, right? And I've looked a lot into that myself, and it certainly makes sense. And I've listened to both, 432, 416 and 440. And it's really interesting, and it might be just what I'm used to hearing, but I prefer the sound of the 440 myself. It's more crisper. But that's just me, but I certainly know what you're saying, and I think that's them changing it to the 440 hertz, which meant that it wasn't sort of in sync with the harmonic ratios and the golden mean and that sort of thing, was again that way to enslave us. And yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting.
Yeah.
And I know you've done
standardizing because they had to between countries, because every orchestra started moving around, and then of course instruments wasn't going to work in an orchestra, right? So yeah,
Yeah, interesting one.
Yeah.
With all the work you've done, helping others, empowering themselves, through all that process, you've been a very empathic and are a very empathic soul, which enables you to excel in these roles with your dedication to bring out the best in others for healing and awakening. And I honour you for that, Wendy, because you are an amazing healer, teacher, tutor. Would you talk to us about the courses you've taken on mindfulness, self and body image, personal development, and creativity and colour? You don't have to talk about all of those, but maybe those that stick out for you as being something you would like to discuss.
Yeah, gosh, probably. I think the women's groups, or the self and body image, was a big one actually. And it's because of my own personal experience, and as a child, because I felt so sort of ostracized at school and bullied, and I came from a sort of a family where there was it was difficult, and there was probably a lot of, maybe, I don't know, inadvertent sort of perfectionism, that sort of thing, criticism, that my body image became an issue, because I thought, and as I sort of, by the time I'd reached puberty, I was quite overweight as a child. So I was kind of the fat kid in the school, me and my friend. Back in the days, the 80s, early 80s sort of thing, when, you didn't get as much obesity. It was quite rare, you know what I mean? So I became a target. So of course, my whole self-worth was sort of based on, well, people don't like me because of the way I look. And I used to be picked on and made fun of, although that may have been part of it, let's face it, people can be horrible to each other, and children, that sort of thing. It was probably also that I had low self-worth anyway, so I kind of put that vibration out. I became a bully magnet, really, But what had happened was, by the time I was about 13, 14, I started restricted eating and losing weight, right? And that had sort of been perpetuated a little bit by my mum, because she was always on diets and putting me on diets, and it was always about, the focus was always there, on how I looked, and I don't blame her for that. She was a product of that, and our parents do their best for where they're at. So I was restricted eating. I did lose a lot of weight, and then of course people would come up to me and say, "Oh my God, you look amazing." I got all this positive affirmation, which in one sense is nice, right? Because I hadn't had that. But in the other sense, it was like, oh, so I'm not really worthy as a person, but when I look okay, then I am, right? Which I think just happens to so many of us. There's more body acceptance now, of course, as we know. So by the time I was, I think, then I started putting on a bit of weight. 16, 17, there was a lot of really dark stuff happening in my family and in my life. And I went to live with a friend's parents, and of course, they ate really differently, and I just started putting on weight. So I ended up developing an eating disorder. So I developed bulimia. And so by the time I think I was about sort of 18 to 20, I became quite underweight actually, and had to become you know, an outpatient for a psychiatric, which they did nothing, or they were hopeless. So from there, because I became quite sick, but no one knew really. No, my family didn't. You know, I could hide things, but actually, it's interesting because I found that they really did. So long story short, I ended up sort of getting involved with a women's group of women of all ages, because of course the hospital were hopeless, the psychiatrists there. It just made things worse. And sort of really started exploring sort of personal growth and empowerment and all that sort of thing. And that was really the start. And I already sort of had a spiritual leaning anyway, because I'd grown up with that sort of thing with a mother who was Christian, but into the Christian spiritualist church, you know. So I was already open there anyway and had a connection. And yeah, it was really just through doing that. But I had also, from the age of 15, had been developed alcoholism quite badly. So, which meant that I got myself into some really dangerous situations and ended up in some pretty awful, you know, relationships. So that was my 20s, basically battling this eating disorder and body image and alcoholism, etc. Right? Probably wasn't until I had my son. So I was still growing in that time and developing and, you know, doing the best I could, although I felt consumed by this. That I moved down here and I had my son, and I knew I sort of had to sort myself out. Pretty much it just evolved. Like people said, how did you stop the eating disorder and drinking? Because I binge drunk, right? And I mean, I can still have a drink, and I've got to watch myself with the eating stuff. It's kind of like once you're you know, they say once you're an alcoholic. I wouldn't have called myself an alcoholic, but I was a binge drinker. Like I didn't have to drink every day. But certainly with food, it's like with eating disorders, it's very much the same. So it's seductive, you know, and so it's always kind of with you. Even though I'm perfectly fine now, it's just always kind of there. But by the time I had my son, and I was in a bad relationship with his father and eventually left, but I went into life coach training. And that was a year, and that was with our dear friend Clem, who passed away recently. Beautiful man from Life Coach Associates, just such a wise soul, you know. Really, really miss his energy. So with him and a couple of others, and so that was a year at that point. I think it was about 2001, and left my relationship. But that was the start, I think, of really kind of diving deep into the deep stuff and the beliefs and the, you know, but I learnt the tools, and of course those are the things that were the springboard for everything that came after that, because it's a never-ending journey, right? I mean, you know, yeah, it's yeah. So from there I how did it happen? I think I approached somewhere to run a creativity course, and that went really well. I got a good turnout for that because I was working through The Artist's Way, which is a book about how to overcome creative blocks, and I turned that into my own course. And then after that, I approached the eating awareness team down here in Christchurch, and they worked with people with eating disorders. And I mean, I had no real qualifications at that time. I didn't even have my music degree. You know what I mean? I just sort of, well, I mean, I had a certificate in jazz, that was about it, but I didn't have anything really that I thought that they would let me come and run courses for them. But I think it's probably because I'd had that experience. It was lived, and I showed them what I'd written in my course. My life coach training had given me a lot there, and other things I'd done. I'd studied voice dialogue, which is working with personality parts, and more soma, and doing I did Gestalt after that. But anyway, they really liked it. So they said, can you come and run these groups? So I did. It was just, you know, it was sort of like once a week. It wasn't every day or anything. But, you know, it was like an 8-week sort of program. But the feedback was great because, you know, I would hear women saying to me, we've got more out of this than say when we were under the eating disorders and down in the psych unit here, you know, which just made things worse. And I was thinking, isn't that interesting? Like really, these people got all these credentials, and it's just so unpersonalized and so textbook. Yeah, because it was real, you know what I mean? It was like I could meet them where they were at. It wasn't like me talking at them, I'm okay, you're not. It was like, I get it. So it's almost like peer support, and there's no sort of rules on me because I wasn't a registered social worker or anything like that, where you can't say that and you have to do this. And it was just like, yeah. I mean, there were some parameters, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was that one. And then I'd run I think I ran the same one through Hagley, and I ran other ones as well in colour and life, spirituality and workshops and bits and pieces. And then yeah, I ran the same one at the Salvation Army in their drop-in centre as well. And that kind of led on to doing the sound, which worked in well with my degree, because I ended up doing my thesis on the effects of singing on emotional states. And I used my groups. So I had a sample of 60 people, and I used my groups as my test subjects for my thesis. So I could have taken that further into a master's, but didn't want to at that point. But it was very interesting. Yeah.
That's fantastic, Wendy. And so we can all have our crosses we bear in life.
Yeah.
But if we choose, as we were saying earlier on, always reminds me of Mission Impossible. If you choose to take this, this is what will happen. They are the springboards for our learning and our moving forward and our breaking free of the old patterns. Yes, some of those patterns stay with us for life, and it's learning to navigate with them. Sometimes we can remove those patterns completely where they are dissolved.
Yeah, totally.
And I guess it all depends on how we go about doing that, if we can go about doing that, and how we think about ourselves, again, with self-worth, which is so, so important. Wendy, to me, stands for magic, inspiration, creativity, and beauty. She has hosted spirituality and women's self-empowerment groups that we've just been talking about, uplifting souls and giving attendees the tools for their own empowerment. Are you able to speak just a little bit more about that and some of the outcomes you saw through those processes? Maybe one or two that stand out.
Oh gosh, okay. I'm trying to think in particular. So I don't think I can give specific examples because I can't necessarily remember them. Do you know what I mean? But I can remember the feedback and that sort of thing. So
sure.
And I always think, well, it's a cumulative. So someone's reached a certain point where whether it's in a group or they come to you and they say, hey, this group's been great for me. I'll say, and thank you for being here because you were ready to hear that, right? You might have heard it from someone else, but often it's timing and the way someone says something that reaches
and being able to listen in the moment too, I think is so important, isn't it? To be ready, to be open to receive that which is being presented.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I think I learned was you're not here to fix people. It's not your business to. So it's like even with, I say to people with tarot, you're really there as a mirror and holding space for people, yeah? And there's times too when you can offer suggestions or you can be that mirror if that invitation is there. But really that's all you are. They're doing the work, You're just that mirror to that process. Yeah. And I think that's the magic key, really. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I think, it doesn't matter what modality people are using, as we all know, we've probably been to people that we thought what they were using was quite good, but you could feel them sort of coming from a place of, you need this and I'm going to fix you, or you know what I mean? Or it's like, when you've got this, then you'll be able to send, or you'll be fine, or da 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 da. And it just doesn't work like that. So yeah. And often it's there's never anywhere to be or get to. It's just the process,
I love that.
So
Can you please repeat that? Because that's powerful. Say that again,
what I was
please.
saying, there's never anywhere to get to or be. It's just the process, just the journey. It's
I love that.
because there's always somewhere else otherwise, So
I love that. And that is so true.
it's their self-acceptance, isn't it?
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that we don't want to grow and change things, but that change comes through the love that's there and the acceptance that I did the best I could. That's where the consciousness can arise. So,
Beautiful. That is so true.
yeah.
Wow. Powerful statements, Wendy. Now to change tack a little bit,
Yeah,
my
sure.
love. Would you talk about your training, please, into the art of Egyptian Bellydance?
Oh, yeah.
Your time when you taught classes at the School of Contemporary Bellydance and performed on stage. What was that phase of life like for you?
Oh, I loved that. That was just beautiful. Yeah, I got into belly dance when I moved down here actually, and I saw Wendy, who was everyone knew of Wendy, I think was advertising lessons. So I went along to her classes, and then I was addicted. It was just so empowering and beautiful, and the costumes and just the movement, and of course I'd always had this sort of connection to Egypt, so it was natural. And she taught, her particular style was Egyptian Oriental, so started with her and did that for a couple of years or so, and then took a bit of a break and then went back. And she had a beautiful way of teaching, and everyone was accepted for where you were at, and of course you could go through the levels and move up to the next level, and she'd create group choreographies that we're dancing and that sort of thing. So I learned from her, and it wasn't till she ended up leaving the school. So she sold the school, became an incorporated society that was run by a few different teachers here in Christchurch. And after a break, I went back and finished the final level 4 and was doing solo dance on stage at that point and choreographies, and then started teaching there. So yeah, that was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
Great.
Yeah.
I loved watching Jendi. She moved like a snake.
Yeah.
She got into that trance state where it was just so beautiful to watch that she was mesmerizing.
Yeah,
it's like she was just in a totally a different place, wasn't she?
Yeah.
With her dance.
Yeah. She produced some really good dances, actually. Yeah. And then it was, I think that when the earthquakes hit, it was after that, that the school kind of folded because it was really difficult getting a place things just took a natural, a change. And I think there's someone teaching, there's a couple of people, but their focus is more tribal than the Egyptian Orientals, so it's slightly different. It's a hybridized belly dance. Gotta be careful here. That came out of America, but uses sort of traditional belly dance movements. So, but it's something I miss, because I stopped doing that. I think when I was about, I'm 54 now. I was about 43, I suppose, 42, and I must say I miss it. It's beautiful. Just the community and the costumes and everything about it, really, even the music, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so empowering, And occasionally we get a guy as well, Like,
yes.
but mainly it was women, and we'd do public performances, and we'd have hufflers, which means parties, and that was beautiful, all of that, actually. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so pleased you had that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You have a strong connection to Egypt.
I do, yeah.
And times lived there. Would you care to talk about Egypt, your connection to it, and your Egyptian story in 2009?
That's right.
You were at the temple of Dendera. What happened at that time, if you'd care to tell us, please?
I will tell you, but you know what I forgot to do was oh, here it is, because it's all centered around a very, well, I guess you could say an ugly looking rock, really, but which I did paint gold. I don't know why I did that, but I'll tell you the story because yeah, I mean, I guess like some of us, I felt that I had spent time there in past incarnations, I suppose, and really wanted to get there. So I did go there in 2009, and it certainly wasn't the journey I thought it was going to be. I thought, I'd sort of romanticized things a little bit. And I found it to be, honest, for me, was a bit of a horrible place. But I'm not talking about the temples as such, but it was a very mixed journey for me, actually. And I'm not going to get too much into that, but I did have some profound experiences, and I had some very scary ones where shadow stuff for me really came up, to do with the masculine, where I felt really unsafe. So it was interesting. It was right in my face. And I thought, well, what a place for it to be, but I was quite protected. So anyway, yeah, the Dendara story. So that was sort of near the end of our trip, actually. And before that, we had one more week left that we were going to be in Cairo. Couldn't wait to get out of Cairo, actually. It was just awful. I found it, And we were staying in Giza, in Nazla El Saman, just by the pyramids. In someone's house, who was kind of like our guide, so to speak. But anyway, yeah, so down in Dendara, so we were staying in Luxor, or actually staying on the West Bank in the Flower of Life Centre. And we decided to take a minivan down to Dendara, and we'd also been down to Abydos, right? So we went down to Abydos. Now that was that an hour and a half or 3 hours? I can't remember which was which, but I think Dendara was that only an hour and a half away? I think so. I can't remember. So anyway, we'd done Abydos, and that was an experience, that's for sure. Got to see the Assyrian with the Flower of Life etched there, and had to pay the guards for that. And then, yeah, that was interesting too, because we were the only ones there. So and the next day we went to Dendara, so we had to we took this minibus back again. And I think there was about 4 of us or 5 plus our guide. And of course they stop you at every, because you've been there, eh? They stop you at every kind of town to look at your passport, and they're there with their guns out the window. And I was like, ooh. So get to Dendara, and I'm exhausted by this part of the trip. But before that, I've got to backtrack a little bit, right? So there was a reason why I really wanted to get to Dendara, because it was Hathor's temple. She's all about beauty and music and mothering and fertility. And so I had this sort of connection and really wanted to get there. But anyway, taking a step back, hope I'm not jumping around too much, about 15 years earlier, my mother had been to Egypt, and she knew I wanted to get there. While she was at the Valley of the Queens, she decided to take a rock off the ground and to bring it home to me. Now, you're not allowed to do that, right? If you get seen doing that, you get into really big trouble. So, but she did. So, knowing Mum, so she did, thinking, well, Wendy's going to appreciate that. It was like this really lovely sort of white limestone rock. Brought it back for me, gave it to me, and I was like, oh, wow, thanks, cool. And I thought to myself, did she ask for permission from the guides and the guardians of the Valley of the Queens, How? I don't think you want to be mucking around there too much. I don't think she did, and I never asked her. Can't remember asking her. So anyway, I remember thinking, I'm going to actually take this rock back. And I said to them on the spirit, well, I said, right, guys, I'm bringing this back to you at some point. So that was my intention. So of course, packed that in my suitcase and was in Egypt, spending time. I had planned on returning it to the Valley of the Queens. Anyway, we got to the Valley of the Queens in the bus, because on this leg of it, we were doing a journey down the Nile. So we were with part of a tour group, right, just for those 3 days. And so we'd taken a bus to the Valley of the Queens. Lo and behold, I'd forgotten this rock. I was like, oh no, I can't believe this. I've forgotten the rock, So that was all right. I thought, well, that's fine. Maybe it's meant to be that way. So that was okay. I thought, let that go. Anyway, it just came to me that it had to be returned to the Nile, because the Nile was the primordial waters in their mythology, where everything comes from, right? It's their life force and their life essence. So I felt like I was being told you've got to gift it to the Nile for cleansing, and that's going to also help cleanse the area that needed it. So that's what I did. I did just a quiet ceremony, myself and the person I was with, and threw it over the boat we were on into the Nile. And thought, great, that's it. Thank you. And I did what I had come here to do. And that was the instruction in the end. It wasn't to go back to the Valley of the Queens, had to go into the Nile, right, for cleansing. So that's all good. And then so back to Dendera. So we get to Dendara, and it was just us, and we'd had a meal with friends of Helen, that was our guide that lived there, and we were going to go to the temple. So we went to the temple, and there was no tourist groups there. So literally there was no one there at all, apart from this one beautiful Arab man dressed in all his white and everything. And he knew Helen, of course, because she had taken other people in groups there. So, and he was lovely. So he was showing us around, and we went into the crypts. So we went underneath, actually into the crypts. So where you go in through, then you could go squeeze through. So I got to go into that underground crypt where there's the hieroglyphs and pictorial glyphs of the light bulb, you know, the in the sort of the battery looking, yeah. So I was in under there, and it was great. I thought, oh, I'm going to be really freaked out, you know, claustrophobic. And I was like, no, this is cool. So so we spent time there. We went up the top, and we got to see where the original Dendara astrology horoscope was. That's now, I think, in the Louvre. Yeah. So it's no longer there. And anyway, so all of that happens, and then we go around the back of the temple, and the Arab guy bends down, he picks up a rock, and he said, I'm giving this to you. I'm meant to give this to you. So, and that was, and I knew, and he knew, and you know, because when I first laid eyes on him, I knew there was something really spiritual about him. I thought, he's the spiritual guardian here, but on the earth plane, right? It was like, I knew, he knew that I knew. And I mean, he knew Helen. So he gave me this, and he said, because the guard's there, and the guard sort of turned a blind eye, says, yeah, don't let anyone see that, because you're not allowed to do that, right? Especially bringing back something like, if they'd found that in my case, coming back from Egypt, entering into New Zealand, I would have gotten in big trouble. So that wasn't going to happen. So that was the gift. So that was the recognition from the spirit guides of what I had done. Yeah.
So you came back with a rock.
I came back with a rock. It wasn't as pretty as the other one, but I treasure it. You know? So this is from Dendara. Yeah.
Cool.
And I
That's
thought,
beautiful.
because I've been here, and thank you. So that was the acknowledgement, you know.
Absolutely an acknowledgement. Because you honoured spirit of place to take that back, and you gifted it back beautifully. How about that? It's interesting what can happen when you're on the inner path.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just, I just knew it had to. And I mean, I didn't even know if I was going to get over there, but it was a bit of a culture shock for my first trip overseas.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, big journey.
Very big journey.
Thank you for letting me share that. I love that story. It's just really,
It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful part of your story. Yeah. Wendy is passionate also, as we know, about supporting people in the area of well-being and personal development. I love her ceremonies that I have been privileged enough to attend. They are using the sacred art of intentional magic, to inspire with focus on an outcome. Could you talk just a little bit about sacred ceremony, please? And as you know, this is also part of my passion.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's really, again, just sort of ritualizing intention, isn't it? You know, when we actually physically create ceremony and rituals with intention, then we're really embedding that into the matrix of this reality. Yeah. And, you know, I think we've lost the art of ceremony. It was become so sort of secular, you know, you go to football games and they do certain things and they do chants. That's a form of kind of ritual or ceremony, I suppose. But I mean, apart from church, right, for those people that go to church, but I think half the time people really don't know where those things came from or what the symbols mean that they're using and the correspondences that they're using. So we're opening up and so many other dimensions of reality and understanding when we use those things to consciously create with intention.
That's beautifully said, Wendy, if I may interrupt you there,
Yeah.
to consciously create.
Yeah.
Because we're bringing the art of ceremony back, a lot of us now. Consciously create. Beautiful. Please carry on. I just had to underline that you said, because that's so powerful.
Yeah, and thank you. And like, please, honestly, I love the conversational, way of doing this. So yeah, it's a nice flow, and so interject anytime you like. Yeah, because I feel like I'm doing all the talking, and
It's all
yeah.
good.
So, it's something that I probably have only really in recent years gotten into. And in fact, thinking about it, I think you're one of the people that probably inspired me because you do it so well. I just loved it. And I thought, gosh, I can do this. So, and then I did my training with the medicine woman eighth ray training in eighth ray magic through Franchel Opsosky Weber. That's how you say her name, I think. And that was working with the planetary archetypes as a vehicle for developing consciousness, right? We would do a lot of ritual, so calling in the elements and certain archetypal energies of the planets and the angels of the planets, and working with those for self evolution, but also evolution of the planet. Yeah. So creating change. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So that really sort of gave me a good, I guess, grounding in conducting ritual. And I think sometimes, I don't know, for some people, they probably don't need to, but for me, I like to do things where there's a bit of structure, right? And then what I do is then change things to suit myself and go, I'll take an element of that. And then I start just writing my own stuff. But I learned a lot from that course and I really enjoyed it. And it really took me to really deep levels. And I mean, she's amazing what she creates, Franchel. But she's also the lady that brought the flower essences into into being as flower essences, working with the native plants in New Zealand. So that was really sort of my, I suppose, formal training in ritual magic and ceremonial magic. And then I've, like yourself, started doing that with some groups and then just creating those. And we work with full moon or the new moon and with different astrological archetypes and signs or the equinoxes or solstices, or whatever. But I think they're beautiful because ceremonies and rituals, don't have to be religious or they don't even have to be anything sort of new agey or spiritual as such, but can quite easily just be therapeutic for people, marking
Yes.
life transitions.
Oh, absolutely. They're the
Release
best.
work and counselling you can use, you
Yes.
call them rituals, but something that helps people put something to rest or release something or so that's kind of where I'm feeling like I want to head some more into. I'm really feeling the pull there. Actually, it excites me. You can get creative. And I love that. I love color and creativity and just everything that beautiful. You can really bring beauty in, and work with nature and we come alive because it connects us to nature again and the cosmos, especially in the secular world we live in, we're so sort of locked in our boxes and disconnected from each other and we're living in fear and so yeah.
Yeah, to break free from that fear and to bring meaning into life. I think this is one of the reasons of the old ways is to coming back into celebration of life in all its aspects. It's so beautiful. And we can do that in the simplest of ways. It could be something as simple is putting a flower on the table when you have a meal together, or a
Consciously.
candle,
Yeah.
or saying a little blessing.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be big and grandiose, although it can be, and you're setting the scene. It
Mhm.
can be very simple as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting though, and I wonder too, you know, it seems to be the places in which ritual ceremonies accepted would be, you know, things like weddings and funerals, but even then it's not really sort of ritualized too much as what it used to be. Yeah, but to actually bring that back again, I think a lot of people are almost scared of it because it's sort of been deemed as maybe a cult. Do you know what I mean? Or that's about, yeah, and again, that's the sort of the religious indoctrination. But then religion itself is all about that, isn't it? I mean, you look at the
Yes.
Catholic Church and the ceremonies and rituals there. So,
Yes.
and where those originally came from as well, which actually all of them came from paganism anyway before that, you know. So,
Yes.
yeah. So bringing that back, and I'd like to see more of that actually happen on
Yeah.
a bigger scale even, you know. So, but to me, it doesn't matter if it's just for myself or a small group of people or one-on-one, but yeah, doing more of that.
Let me know when your next one is,
Will
girlfriend.
do, absolutely. With a bonfire.
Woohoo! Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it. You
yeah,
also love reading the archetypal tarot, a
yeah.
psychological tool of consciousness awakening. You're an amazing lady, all these lovely things you're into. Are you able to give us a card of the day
Yeah.
and share what you'd like to offer with that?
Let's do it. So the tarot,
Oh,
yes.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. Anyone here actually? I'm always curious who's had tarot readings or who knows anything about tarot, or because maybe I can hear from that later. Yeah, because I like to say to people, let me just sort of premise things. To me, the tarot isn't, I don't use it per se as a fortune telling device or for predictive, because I don't think that's empowering. Yeah. And I think there's too much karma involved there. So I don't want to do that. So really I say to people, it's a tool, not just psychological, but it's a mirror to your inner, to your soul, to your higher self, depending on who I'm talking to is the language that I use. So I say, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know yourself, that you don't have access to. I'm just a mirror. The cards are a mirror, and it's a conversation. So people come and they often think they don't want to say anything. They just want you to tell them stuff. Yeah. And tell me what I need to know. And it's like, well, actually, no, this is a conversation. We're unpacking this together. Yeah. The more you talk and we share, it's not about me doing mind reading or psychic shenanigans or, you know, circus tricks or whatever. So, but of course, I do also say that there is intuition involved. Yeah. And this is just a tool. Eventually, you don't even need that, right? Yeah. But it's a useful tool, but that's all it is. You know, it's paradoxical though, because at the same time, it's kind of alive. You know, they speak to you. So let us choose a card. So I'm going to shuffle for a bit, and I'm just going to ask, so Divine Spirit, may we please have a card of the day that reflects the collective group here and any messages that need to come through or just for inspiration. Thank you. I'll just shuffle and pick a card. I've got a beautiful, independently creative deck here. The Violet Soul Tarot. Well, look at that. The Magician.
Whoa.
Yeah. As above, so below. So, yeah. So how are we actually choosing to use our energy today? Are we using it intentionally? What tools do we have that we can hone and become more aware of to use intentionally? Yeah, as co-creators.
Beautiful.
So we're all magicians, and he's got his grimoire open, his book of knowledge. So it's not
Oh,
shut.
that is interesting. That's going to be part of my next question.
Ah,
Oh
cool.
my goodness. I love how this all works. So it's using the magic that we are, the magic that we
Yep.
have,
Mm-hmm.
bringing into reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So being that channel and that for divine spirit, aligning to our purpose
Yes.
and yeah, consciously focusing, using the tools. So we have the cup, which is about feeling and emotion. So that's about, when we want to create something, we have to feel as if it already is. It has to align with us and our heart. Our wand, that's the creative energy. That's the will. That's the spark that actually, it's the fire energy. Yeah. So the cup's the water energy. It's the receptive. The fire energy is the one that sends it out there, sends the intention out. The sword is the intellect. So the sword brings structure and understanding and knowledge. Yeah. And how we do things brings the clarity. Yeah. And the pentacles itself is our body, but it's everything that we have to work with on the physical. Yeah, and how we use those things. So we have to bring all of those together in harmony. And when we do, we can create amazing things, right? Yeah. So he's got all his tools out.
And he has the infinity symbol
He
above his
does.
head.
Lemniscape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. And there's a little owl in the background too. So the wisdom to know
Wow.
how to use your energy and when to use it and how to create intentionally. Yeah.
Mm.
What do you want to manifest?
That's beautiful. Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome. He's got a feather there, actually.
Oh, nice.
Oh, he's got the sword too, yeah, but he's got the feather.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Feathers mean a lot to me. I love feathers.
so do I. So there you go. And this is a beautiful deck. The colours in this violet soul
Wow.
are just beautiful.
What was that deck called, Wendy?
This is an independently designed deck, so it's not a mass market one. So you're supporting the artists when you buy their decks, but they're quite a lot more expensive, but it's called the Violet Soul Tarot.
Beautiful.
And I edged it because I like to be creative, because I edged it with markers, all different colors. So yeah, beautiful cards.
Beautiful.
Look at that. There's your three of pentacles there. It's about collaboration. So who can we
Nice.
collaborate with to create what we want? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, working together. There you go.
Love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Would you like to talk about the benefits of making your own grimoire, the Book of
Yeah.
Shadows? This goes back to the old ways when we were more consciously in touch with the universe, nature, and energy, and knew how to use it. When we walked the old straight ways and were in tune with everything around and within us. These are the times again now to come out of the darkness, to alchemize who we are and how to become more of who we truly are by using our inner tools to manifest into our realities. Can you tell me, please, what is a grimoire? How do we go about making one? And what do you see as the benefit of it? So they're basic questions around something that is quite special.
Yeah. I'm sure there's lots of different answers on the internet, and there may be a difference between a grimoire and a book of shadows. I'm sure there's subtleties. I don't really know. I just thought, well, I'm calling mine a grimoire, right? So it's my book of magic. Now, your book of magic can be anything you want it to be. I mean, when you were a kid, you loved having scrapbooks, it was that was a creative book of magic where you put things in and you wrote things in. So, you could say it's a bit like a journal. Although, really it's coming from a ceremonial, ritual, or spiritual perspective. So within it, for me, I've got like spells, I've got meditation, I've got tarot spreads that I use. What else? Because I'm going to show you in a minute. I've got a section I'm creating on muses and the divine goddess. So I'll put things in there for that. I've got a section on the wheel of the year. So working with the wheel of the year and the Sabbats, and I've got moon phases in here, animal totems. So really, it's anything that means magic for you, yeah? I work with sigils, so creating sigils. So I've got a wee part in my book for sigils, because sigils help us manifest, yeah? That's kind of using the magician's tools physically, creating a sigil and then putting that in here. So anything occult, esoteric that pertains to your practice as a practitioner of whatever it is that you call yourself. Well, for me, I don't subscribe to any identity. For me, it's just my own spiritual work, I suppose, and tool. It's my own spiritual tool. Yeah. But what I love about it, again, is that when we're manifesting, we're creating, and this is about creativity. So would you like to see it?
We would love to, if that's allowed.
Yeah, it is. Now, first of all, I'll just say that the book itself that I bought, which was, so you buy yourself a blank book if you want to make one. And my book was from Temu, of all places, and it was about $40. And when I got it, I was just blown away about how amazing it was. And I'll show you why. This is the front of it.
Wow.
And inside it, I'll show you some of the pages. All of the pages have, some that I haven't already done stuff to, are like old parchment and old kind of, let me show you, like, for example. So
wow.
all of the pages have astrological signs, and I mean, I've covered most of it now because, for example, look at that one. So all of the pages in the book, it's this beautiful thick paper. I was just so blown away. Look, there's even a page for spell. You see that?
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't covered that one yet. So what I've done, because I was almost like, I don't want to even write in it. I don't want to put anything in it. It's too beautiful, But I thought, no, that's what it's here for. So for a start, what I just started doing was I just got lots of pictures that I cut out from, I print them up from the internet. Anything that I found like that, anything I want to stick in. So it's like scrapbooking. If anyone's done any scrapbooking, it's kind of like that, right? So my first page is the Alchemistic Bohemian. I printed that off and stuck that in.
Wow.
So that's
beautiful.
That was so this is just for me, and then what I started doing was decoupaging. So that's a picture of me at the top there. So I just started putting in beautiful pictures of things I love,
That's beautiful.
So I won't show you all of it, but I'll get to some of the other sections, and like that's just me playing with tissue paper and gluing it in.
Well, it's very Victorian looking, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's got a richness to it.
Yes, you can do anything you like. And then what I've done is I have then printed out, for example, here, I've got tarot spreads that I've printed out, stuck in there, and then just bordered with tape. You can get the tape, the colourful tapes.
Wow.
And so there's a section for spells. There's a section for, I've got a section on symbols, for example. So I've got different.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, just anything that kind of you like to use, all the correspondences. I have.
So what you're doing, you're bringing into this reality that which you want to manifest in a way, aren't you?
Yeah, but
into one place.
Yes, you are, but it's also like a recipe book because I have spells in here. I've got, spells that I've found that I like.
Yes.
Now, some people like to write in their own, but I have absolutely dreadful writing, so I won't do that. I'd rather so I go onto like Canva and I copy and paste things in, and then Canva's like just really a basic sort of program for making posters.
How do you spell that, please, so people know?
Canva.
Say that again, please.
Canva, Canva.
Yep. Okay, and what is that? Is it a printing site?
So you go on there and you can make flyers and posters and things. So what you do is I go on and I'll look through their templates and use one and then just type in what it is that I want on there and import pictures, then you can go on there and download the image that you've made.
Oh, wow.
And then I send it to the warehouse stationery and they print it out. And then
Fantastic.
I put it in my book. Now I haven't, there's lines in here where I could write things, but because like I said, my writing's so bad that I know I'm just going to balls it up. So I don't want to do that. But I've got, like, for example, a section on, you know, plants and flowers. So I've got all the New Zealand First Light flower essences.
Oh, beautiful, Wendy.
That's my reference.
Lovely.
Yeah. And I've got a sigil, so I've put in some pictures and I've got an envelope. So when I make sigils, I pop them in the envelope for them to do their work in my book. Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. And it's a work in progress. And the other thing I do is, as you'll see, let me find it. I get very excited about these things, as you can see.
That's wonderful.
Is I decoupage using tissue paper. So as you can see there, one of the sections I've got is called the Muse, the Mythic, and the Goddess Mysteries, and I've used tissue paper and I just decoupage a page, you know, and then you can put other things on it. So
beautiful.
You can do anything you want. Yeah. And in the past I thought, oh, scrapbooking would be fun, but this is more fun because it actually has meaning, like for me.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's some of the grimoire.
So with the grimoire, is when you've done that, is that it? Or do you go back and use it again? Or do you go back and add to it? Tell me the rounding out of the story of it.
Yeah. Well, the idea is it's like a book of magical shadows. So it would be like when you want to go and, oh, where's that spell? And you go, it's like your recipe book. You go and get it, you know. So that's why I'm putting meditations and things in here that sometimes when I've run groups, I'll put one of my journeys in here so that I can, you know, I've got that there. I've got recipes. So I make aura sprays, which I use crystals, and so I do a whole ritual around making this aura spray, and they contain essential oils, and you know, they've been alchemically made and they have crystals in them. And so when I make that, the actual recipe is in here because I'll follow my, you know, I don't know if it's in my head, but yeah, I like to have it in here. So anything really. I mean, I think if you Google grimoire and grimoire pages as well on the internet, so much stuff comes up. For example, I mean, I've got, you know, other pictures in here, tarot cards.
That's lovely. You've done that beautifully. So for those that don't know, how do you spell grimoire?
Oh, golly.
Oh, well, I can say if it's easier.
Grimoire.
Yes.
That's it. That's right,
That's it. Yeah. Just for those that maybe not understand the spelling. That's fantastic, Wendy. That's brilliant.
It's fun.
So what's currently happening for you now? What magic are you weaving right now?
I have been, apart from doing this, I'm just always sort of doing little creative projects, you know. So I have one on the go, but I'm not going to tell anyone about that yet. But I'm studying astrology at the moment. So through the American Federation of Astrologers, which is based in the US. They do a very good course that takes you right from beginning, right through to actually being able to be an astrologer. And the beautiful thing about it's really good. So I'm just doing the first 8 lessons. So basically, I think there's 24 lessons. So I've just paid for the first 8, which I think turned out to be around $240 New Zealand, which is really good. And it's all online. And you know, you can do as little or as much as you like, and then at the end you get their diploma, and then if you want you can sit one of their exams, but you have to do that where there's a moderator. So you have to go somewhere where there's a moderator, and their exams are like ridiculously long, like 8 hours or something, and I thought, oh, it's too long for me. That's fine, I don't need your bit of paper, but yeah, so it's just for interest's sake, really, because it brings another layer or dimension into what I'm doing, especially with the tarot. In fact, everything, and it's another tool, isn't it?
Absolutely is. So Wendy, what do you, before we open to questions, what do you offer people and where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. So I can do readings for people with tarot. So people come, sometimes they're just wanting a general reading, other times they have a specific question that they're wanting clarity on. So that helps them with that. I can do them through Zoom or Skype. I can do email ones as well. Yeah, and so that's, that's an option. I have a website, so everything's on there. So basically it'll say all the things I do. I also work with New Zealand First Light Flower Essences. So that's vibrational healing, actually working with the native plants of New Zealand. Really powerful. I've really got to say, since I trained in that 3 years ago, and the results I've seen with people are actually quite profound. They're just amazing, actually, So they're beautiful. So that's just, working vibrationally. And we work on basically everything from personality parts right through till the aura, layers of the aura, DNA, chakra alignment, and soul purpose. So each of the different types of plants have a specific area that they work with. So I work with those. What else do I do? I'm just teaching music. So that's my main kind of work, is teaching piano and vocals and performing occasionally. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else actually.
So where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm at thealchemistic.com. So
Now you might have to spell that one too,
I
please.
will, because it's spelled a bit different. So it's VTHE, got a pen there? KHEM for Mary, YSTIC.com. I think I got that. Did you write it down?
I have already.
So it's alchemistic. Yeah.
Yes.
ALKHEMYSTIC. Yeah. So the reason why it's a K and not a C is because Kem was the ancient name for the Black Land or Egypt. Yeah.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Wendy, are you happy to take a couple of questions before we
Absolutely.
close?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So if anyone has a question for Wendy, would you like to raise the little hand, please?
Or if anyone wants to share anything, if what I said, anything kind of sparked a thought in someone.
Yes, absolutely. Does anyone have a question?
And if not, that's okay too.
Not, that's okay.
Oh, well, I just thought, I'd just say hello and really talk, and thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Lovely to see your face. Thank you for listening. Yeah.
Yeah. I always just potter around and listen. It's too distracting to have movement. Yeah. It's better to turn the camera off.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Because, this is the first time I've done anything like this on Zoom with a group of people. And it's funny because I've spent so many years performing on stage and running groups, but it's suddenly was like, oh, this just feels really weird. So, it was a little bit out of my comfort zone. So thank you for being so lovely. And yeah.
You're doing very well, Wendy. You've done amazingly, actually.
Oh,
Sherry,
good.
do you have a question there?
I don't really have a question, but I could identify with when you went to Egypt. I went there in 2006, and they had, policemen on the bus, and they had guns, and the driver had a gun, and goodness me, I just didn't feel right about it at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And and I was, and when I was actually on a cruise, and then we drove down to Cairo and to the pyramids there, and I was surprised how small the Sphinx was, because always when you see a photo of the pyramids, you see the Sphinx and then the pyramids. I mean, not that it was small, it wasn't, but you imagine it's so much bigger.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that one actually. Yeah. I thought the pyramids would be bigger.
Yes, yes. I mean, they are big, but yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Who's to say they're not bigger? They may go down a lot further than what they've dug out.
This is true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We were actually discouraged from even going into the pyramids
Really?
And with all the riders and the police and the donkeys and you know, it was really quite off-putting, really was. And there was virtually hundreds of buses with
Yeah.
people in them. It wasn't crowded at the pyramids themselves, but it was yeah. And I had the conundrum of what to see, because we could either go down the Nile, go to the pyramids, go to the museum, stay in Alexandria, or and I should have studied up before I went to find out what I was going to go and see. But I wasn't disappointed that I didn't go, that I did go. Yeah, but I was, quite surprised by the country, really.
Yeah.
It certainly is a culture shock, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it really is.
Yes.
Mm.
And coming back in the bus, there was a lot of houses that looked like we don't have them so much here, but they have a first brick and then they have a final brick. And I asked a friend of mine who was Egyptian, and she said that once they finish the house, they've got to pay huge taxes to the government.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
really?
this is why you find all of these houses that are unfinished.
Unfinished.
That's right.
Yes,
Interesting.
yes. And of course, as the generations grow, they build
They
another
do.
story and another story, and etc.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's interesting. I didn't know that, because I remember when we were driving from the airport into sort of Cairo, and just being quite shocked at just how barren it was, and these sort of mud brick houses with the metal kind of structure stuff sticking out the top, and thinking,
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
Mm.
And and the amount of rubbish actually in Giza, but
Yes, I was surprised when we went down the Nile. That there was a lot of rubbish on the side of the, in the banks. It wasn't overly done, but there was rubbish. And when you think that there's tourists go, on these cruises down the Nile, but we only went down the Nile a certain way and then came back, which was a bit of a waste, really. But it was an experience.
yeah, certainly was that. Yeah,
And I'm so pleased I did it. I think Ephesus was actually probably a better view. That's in Turkey.
Oh, really? Gosh, I'd love to
Yes.
see actually.
And all of the Roman and the Greek and the whatever else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's on the list.
All that, the different architecture there was fantastic, really was.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'd love to get to Turkey as well, actually. Yeah,
I
eventually.
know when I went to Egypt, it was a huge contrast with the way we were staying in 5-star hotels and then going out and seeing the real Egyptians and these little children that had nothing, but they were so happy. These happy kids playing with a car tire, and you think, how can they be so happy? But they were. It was a huge culture shock in a lot of ways. My daughter and I and a group went through all the major temples, going from Abydos up as initiation chambers up to the Giza Pyramid, which was the crown chakra, when people did initiations through those temples. So we went really on a sacred journey, and it was amazing. And going into the Great Pyramid, we actually had time allotted before it opened to the public. So we were fortunate enough to get in between the paws of the Sphinx behind the Dream Stele and rest against the Sphinx.
Yeah.
And also have time in the pyramid before it opened to the public. And we went in ceremony, and we just had some amazing experiences. I was very, very blessed with being there and having my daughter come with me, and just everything we experienced blew me away. That was our inner journey, but we did the outer one as well, which is always interesting when you're traveling, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly.
Yes.
Yeah. I think if I went back again, I would do it differently. Because hearing your story, Jude, and there was beautiful highlights in mine, but there was some real tough moments, as I'd shared with you. But being in the pyramids was, I didn't have that experience. We would have loved to have been there on our own, but we did manage to get up into the King's Chamber. And you're not allowed to actually get into the sarcophagus. Well, that's what they call it, a sarcophagus, but we know it's probably not. But I did, and I lay in there. And actually it was Helen, she was doing light language. But I ended up singing in the King's Chamber, even though there were sort of people coming in and out. We were in there about over an hour, and it felt like it was only about 5-10 minutes maybe. We were in there so long. And I actually sang in Sanskrit in there.
Wow,
And I
how
knew
amazing.
that there was other people. I thought, I'm just going to do it, you know. And the sound, oh my God, it was amazing. Yeah, it was.
How beautiful. Because we
Really
know
eye-opening.
that was never a sarcophagus.
Yeah,
It actually has the exact dimensions to hold the Ark of the Covenant, and it was used as an initiation chamber.
Yeah.
Totally different from what we've been told. It's absolutely fascinating. Now, probably all of you know, just as an aside, but could be quite interesting as we've got Wendy here for the moment, on the 8th of April is one of the biggest eclipses ever known on the planet for many, many years. The sun will be hidden for 4.5 minutes. And it has been suggested, if we wish, to hum to the note C, C4, during that time to help raise consciousness. And then for 40 days afterwards, the 40 days is quite symbolic in many, many traditions as a time of atonement and birthing into the new earth that which we want. Wendy, are you able to give us a C4 that we can hear?
Yeah, I'll have to just.
And if anyone would like to record that on their phone if they want to.
I would suggest that, to be honest, if I mean I can play it for you, but you're not going to remember it. Is that you just go online, because there's tuners and things, and there'll be a online keyboard or something, probably an app where you can play a C.
Okay.
So it won't matter really what C it is. So but if you want me to play, so he said C4, was it?
Yes, please.
Okay, and then let's tone to it.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna just find it first. So I'm gonna actually sit down.
Yep.
Okay, we'll use an oo, or any tone you want. Okay, so you ready? Take a deep breath.
Thank you.
So equally, you could just hum, just do.
It was suggested we hum on the day.
Yeah.
So this eclipse is very profound for many, many ways. It's talking about the beginning of a new age in more solidity than has been up till now. Andy, thank you for posting that in the chat. That's brilliant. For us in New Zealand, it happens at 6:15 a.m.
Yeah, so, yeah.
We can always timeline to that time in our thoughts by commanding it go there at that time, because we don't live in space and time totally if we choose not to. Or we can wake up and be there at that time, and it goes for 4.5 minutes that the sun is shrouded. And we know that the good are going to do everything they can, but by the same token, we know the opposite will also be happening. So the more that we can bring in the light and the toning would be wonderful. Now, there is a wonderful podcast that came out by Sasha Stone this morning. I've posted it on our Facebook page. This is the Lazarus Initiative. You may want to watch that and it's explain more fully. But thank you for that, Wendy. Wendy,
thank you.
I just want to thank you so much for coming on to our 5D family. It's been amazing. Thank you very much for your time, your wisdom, your understanding, all that you are. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me, Jude, and everyone. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, Jude, for making me feel comfortable and it being an easy process. And, you know, you do a beautiful job. Yeah.
Bless your heart. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this on 5D and beyond, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as we know, peace on earth, it starts with you. It starts with me. So God bless everyone and good night.